Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio.com. And I'm your host, Janet Lessin, and today is an episode of Experiencers Network. And today we're going to interview Ruth Ann Friend. And Ruth Ann has been on our network many times before. She's a wonderful woman from a small Midwestern town in southern Illinois, and she's lived in that community all of her life. She married and had 4 children and has grandchildren. She's a clairvoyant like her mother and also her son David, who has passed and gone on to the other side. And David and Ruth share their worlds together with the spirits and other universal beings, ETs, and they share throughout their lives and even into this existence now. She's a Reiki master teacher and practitioner and has taught at the college level. She has presented at many workshops on the spirit world and Reiki, and she performs hypnosis and does readings. She's written 3 books, Under the Rainbow Crossing, about the house that she still lives in, that was built in the 1850s and has 7 different spirits in it. The story of David is based on her son's abilities and his and mine and her reincarnations to come back into this life. And Aliens Within Our Own Selves tells of Ruth and David's life with our universal ET families and what the ETs want to tell the world. And her latest book, Aliens Within Our Own Selves, is based on true events and is a phenomenal story of 2 people living in a dual consciousness by finding out that they both have been chosen by the ETs as companions. This book's about living a secret life and keeping records of their experiences together until the ETs told them the purpose of all this. The ETs want us to speak the truth for them using the ETs of words and their many messages and why we have been schooled by them. They want the truth told about them and why they come to the earth, and they're responsible times for many of the new cures with the ideas and answers put into a human mind when the person thinks this is their own thoughts. And so today you're going to learn about many things you never dreamed of and how things really are that make up our world. And Ruth Ann, welcome back to our show.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for having me back on. I always enjoy it very much.
I do too. This has been a very busy holiday season, and I'm so delightful that you decided to take a break from all the festivities and join us today. Today's just kind of laid back, and we're going to play catch-up and see what's new with you. And whatever you want to tell us would be great. Wherever you want to start, you have an incredibly, complicated story with yourself and David, who's now on the other side. That's your son. And your contact with extraterrestrials. Let me just ask you, are you still having contact? And if so, what's happening with you and your ET friends and David?
Yes, I do. Some of the newer information are from some beings that I had not seen before. So I had written down everything as it happens, of course, because I document everything. And it was in the early AM hours, not too many weeks ago, that I looked up. I knew they were there to see these extremely tall beings. They were so tall that they had to bend their heads because of a ceiling. You know, they couldn't stand straight up. And they were very long-armed, very long-legged, and very thin. And they were all around me. And it was, of course, when I was in bed because, like I said, it was in the a.m. hours. I had a really good feeling about them. And I also knew I had been with them earlier in travel. Sometimes they let me see things familiar as being in my room, and I may not be, but that's how the ETs can do this at times. They can make you think you're there to just relax you, and you actually are out and about with them. But I knew I was there. So they looked very strong, although they were fragile, and they were all one color. They had like a form-fitting clothing on, and they were gray-colored. Immediately I saw hands coming over to me, and at first I didn't know if I was to accept them or not, but I felt no danger at all, and I extended my hand out, in that direction to them. I called them the giants because of them being so tall. And the next morning,
for them.
Oh yeah, yeah. And they had no hair on their head at all, like the little grays. And I did not get a good look, or else they've let me forget about their faces because I couldn't remember their faces exactly. But I just couldn't get over how long their arms and legs was. So they're still coming, and I'm into some different levels now. I was taken about 2 weeks ago to, we went to look at these blueprints. I didn't know what was happening, and the ETs spread out all these blueprints in front of me. And I'm trying to get what they're wanting me to learn about or know. So I looked at these blueprints and these objects. Then I began to see the objects. And these things that were being built were not by them. They were on Earth, and they're of destruction. I mean, they're weapons that I felt really concerned about. And I'll soon know the meaning more of these things, but these were new life forms that...
So let me slow this down a little bit. So they first were the extremely tall beings. You can't remember their faces. They're gray in skin color, and their head has no hair. Were they related to this second abduction, the same people? Yes, I believe so. That's the way I understood it, the way I saw them. And I kept wondering who they were, what they were called, but I did not ask anything because of these blueprints and what they were showing me of this object. This huge object was laying on its side. It was very long. And then they would show me how it would look if it was straight up. And I'll say that the only common word, like a rocket, that's the only thing I can tell you. And they were very highly super intelligent, and they were not to be afraid of. So this was just a blueprint for rockets. You didn't see an actual rocket. You just saw the design and plans for the rocket. I saw the plans, the blueprints, and then they did show me this object. The closest thing I can tell you of how it looked, but it wasn't a rocket, but it looked similar to a rocket. So it was very powerful, and it was upsetting to me because I knew that this was a object of destruction. So the information, when it always came to my son and I, a lot of it came in portions because they have to give the human mind time to, process the information. Right, yeah. So they can't you know what I mean, I know. Right, yeah. So anyway, these beings have been coming, and I had made notes after they were here like I always do. Let me see. I can find real quick here maybe. Did they give you any indication who had built this weapon of destruction and where it was?
I have a very strong feeling it was designed by humans, by man. And that's why I was very concerned, So this is something that they wanted me to know, and they will give me more information on it. Like I said, it will be a little bit at a time. So then they've been coming, and they told me that I had been taking a certain medication. I don't even take medicine hardly ever, but I had been on one. And they let me know to quit the one human medicine. This is their words. And then they said they reprogrammed me again, and that I had graduated to a newer, higher level. And they said life will be more enjoyable without the one medicine. So make your choices wisely. So they really look after me just like they always have for my son and I when he was here. But yeah, I've had a lot of new things happen. It was about a week after that the familiar family of ETs came, and they were just letting me know, yes, it was our craft that you've seen over the trees. I had seen one of the UFOs the night before, and they said, we come for you tonight to go with us to your home. And then they gave me a new galactic name that they gave me, and they talked about a planet I had never heard of, that I probably haven't heard of millions, called Veron. I don't know if have you ever heard of that one? Beron, how I spelled it.
It's B or V. B as in boy or V as in Victor?
I thought they said with a V.
V as in Victor. So Beron.
That's the way I just spelled it, just because that's how it sounded to me.
That's how it sounded. Okay. No, I haven't heard of it, but let me quickly Google it. Let's see if somebody else has. It just, for some reason, it made me think of Phil Croft. What was that his name? The man who was a magazine. Phil, let me see, Kraft. Yeah, I have his book right here. Philip A. Karp. He wrote the book The Contact Has Begun. He was a 25-year veteran of the Los Angeles Times Metro desk. For some reason, I just got a psychic hint of that, and I turned around and the book is right there. But let's put the planet Veron. Let's see what we have. Because I don't know. I just got that. Okay. No, there's a planet Veron. Anime. It's an anime planet. It's anime planet.
Okay.
Yeah, Veron was a planet located within let me pull this up. Star Wars. Okay, it's part of Star Wars. Veron was a rustic trade world which was dominated by forests and tropical jungles. They were known for their Fevrinor trees, which covered 3/4 of the planet's land. Wow, there's a whole story about Veron.
And
so you can
I
find
didn't
that
know
on
all that.
Star Wars, Wikia, StarWarsWikia.com, Wiki/Veron/legends. So it has a whole. So yeah, it's interesting when we get these things that they're actually, well, they're fiction, but that fiction could be depicting something that's real. So, and it says it was a planet. But I hope it still is. It attracts many tourists. And wow. Okay, so what did they tell you? You have a new galactic. You got a new galactic name. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
What's your new galactic name?
I'm going to spell it first. Aldatron. Aldatron.
Aldatron. And how did you get the new name? They just said that's your name, or did you get to select it, or what was going on? What was there, a ritual or something?
No, they just simply said your galactic name, where this planet was Albatron. And so I wrote that down because I wanted to have it correctly. I'm glad you found that about Veron, though. I'm going to look that up. And then they continued, as always, they're so compassionate. We love you, and we will never leave you. And we have all been together since the beginning of time. So that was what happened that evening. But, yeah, I've been having different things. I know there's a lot of talk going on now about the disclosure, of coming forth with the experiencers, people who've had experiences with the UFOs and ETs. And I'm so happy about that they're coming forward now.
I am, too. I'm ecstatic. What's your take on that? So the Pentagon has released the files that they were chasing some UFOs or recording them, and then For the Stars with Tom DeLonge is an organization with a number of high-level whistleblowers and researchers that are unifying to do something to accelerate the disclosure process, and some people believe Tom DeLonge, and some people think it's a distraction, or it's they're going to do false flags, and it's so complicated. It makes my head spin. What's your take on all this? Tell me more about what you think about what's happening now.
Well, I'm very careful about what I believe by how I feel, and I know you're also very gifted, so you know what I mean. So on this, all these things coming out, some of the things I don't feel quite right about. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but so I sat down and I asked a question earlier tonight.
Okay, good.
About this, and they are talking about our world, our planet now, that we're not ready yet on Earth. And they said, think carefully on what you hear. Above all, live your Earth life. Let us do the rest. They said humans are not ready yet, and some are misled. And there's a lot of chaos, as we know, on Earth. It's everywhere. They said, let it come when it should. We will only come when it is our selected time, not before. And then they said, slow down, slow down. So I asked David then, and David said, the world will need to have patience. Disclosure comes some closer. Earth people are not to know everything. A human brain cannot hold all of this information, all of this universal information. So, I know what he's saying here. And he said, let's see, I'll find my other note here. Okay, then think on this. I already had mentioned that. He's talking about what after disclosure. Have I mentioned that? After disclosure? Okay.
No,
he
tell
said,
me about after disclosure.
He said, have you thought on this? He said, there is so much to do. Those people, humans, are not ready yet on Earth. Think carefully on what you hear, and above all, live your life and let us do the rest. Yeah, I had one over there.
Yeah, you did that part,
in other words, So in other words, they're wanting they're hoping, I believe, that this kind of slows down, because it's like he had a good question there. So what after disclosure, when it does come? Do you know what I mean? It's like just a dead stop. Okay, what after disclosure? When everything's there. In other words, in short, we can't make anything happen. It has to be up to the extraterrestrials. we can't make things happen. If it's not time, everything, as we know, has to be in the right timing. So this disclosure, how it's coming, it'll come at the very exact time it's supposed to. So that's about all I got on all that, but it made sense because
I'm so impatient, though. I'm so weary. I'm so tired.
You know,
Please,
I think I know. Well, he said it's coming, but I think there has to be certain things in order before this happens, is what he's meaning by going through all that. That we have to learn to be patient more, and you know, ever since I was a little kid, and him too, when he was born, they've always taught us about patience and timing, and that nothing comes unless it's in the right timing. And I think I grew up with this for so long, I don't get very impatient because I know when they say something that's how it's going to be, you know. So I just go on my way and live my life and, you know, work with our family of extraterrestrials, and they keep teaching. So they still come, yes, and I still go with them, and it's quite often. I always will. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I've had contact too. Mine takes place in. It's like I go to a different world, and I have a different. Like I have a. It's not a job. I have things I do there, just like I have things I do here. And I often visit this one huge city. There's the architecture is way not human. It's like this is not from the earth. I can walk down their streets, and actually, when you're walking, you glide. It's like I don't know what's going on with the gravity, but I don't. I don't even think my feet touch the ground, but I make the motions like I'm going to walk, but. I can be in a huge city, and before I know it, I've across the whole city. I'm on the other side, and then I'll say, well, I want to go over to the part where they have the marketplace, and they don't have money. They want you to take their stuff. They have a lot of leisure time, and they're creative, and they go and they cook foods, and so you're walking by, they try to entice you with the smells and what they have, and their reward is when somebody takes their item that they've made, the food or the decorative jewelry or whatever it is. The value is not in digits or credits or coins or paper, but in today, honey, they go home at night. Today, sweetheart, I gave away 500 rings and, whatever, or 5 rings, and they're just so happy when someone appreciates their handicraft. It's a very strange way of looking at it, and a lot of the buildings have life within it, like the trees interweave with it's like tree houses, right? But these could be giant buildings, and they have giant trees, like on Avatar, and they're somehow... vegetation is incorporated right into the buildings, and so you don't have like we have here on Earth these skylines where it's just all metal, and concrete, but it's living. Everything's living, and it's breathtaking. And then I come back here, and I go, oh, okay, I'm back here to do this part. And, it's kind of. Susie Hansen says that we have a dual soul. So yeah, I have a dual soul, but maybe it's even more because sometimes it's different worlds. I'll be flying and it's my body flying, or I'll be swimming and I can do the same thing in the oceans or in the waterways, and so it's very exciting for me. But when I heard that they were going to start doing this disclosure, that was about 2 weeks ago now, maybe a week and a half. And I just got a bunch of downloads around it. It was like, oh, yeah, it's time. We've got to do something. We've got to do something because the other news, every day you turn on the news, and it's just dark, 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 dark stuff happening. Mm-hmm. Lots of fighting, juxtaposing, and they're trying to get their position. I don't know what's real anymore with all this stuff that's being said on the news. It's over. It's information overload, and I don't know what position to take or what to believe. I know what I know as an ET contact. I know that's a knowingness, but these are all beliefs, and then people are arguing their beliefs, and I just ran away. I don't know what to believe. When you get into the nuances of Trump did this and Obama did this and Clinton did this and then these are all just words. I don't think anybody can prove anything. Where's the love? I just go, let's go outside this spot. Where's the love? And that's why I love talking to contactees, because it's just so loving. Where I go, it's just loving. I come home glowing, and I'm vibrating at a higher frequency. So that's why I love talking to experiencers, because we are in a different world. We're in a whole other paradigm. And I'm hoping to show the way. I'm hoping that here's another way of looking at existence, and here's the way to go there. And somehow helping them. My brother, he's very, very conservative, and, he's in that whole world there of ultra-conservatism, and it's like, doesn't see how to get there. Like, yeah, you might have these Star Trekian, to him it's all crazy, right? But it's like, if you could just wrap your head around it, that there are other ways to do life that's way different than how human beings are doing this world. When you come from the ET perspective, looking at the Earth, you go, well, that's pretty crazy. Anyway, I'll pass the stick back to you, because it's so I'm seeing the world from other eyes, through alien eyes, and I feel great love and compassion for everybody, and it seems like I'm more empathetic than ever before, because it's like I feel it's like if something could be happening to somebody else, and it's like it feels personal. Really feels it goes to my heart, and it hurts my heart, my soul, and it's like, okay. So I go up to councils, I go on board ships, I go to other planets. I am working, but I don't know how to handle the disconnect, because there's still the integration, bringing the information back here and translating it and putting it into human words and actions. I don't know what to do. Do you have any ideas on that? Maybe your hailing frequencies or channels are more open and clear communication than what I'm getting, because I'm not getting the I get the downloads, I get the experiences, but I don't get the integration, because I have so many questions. It's like, okay, you showed me all that. Now what do I do with that? What do I do with that? What do you think, Ruth Ann?
Well, I guess, I think everybody gets information different ways, and because there's so many thousands of species out there, we talk back and forth pretty well as normal as we're talking. They may use our language a little bit different, but they're experts at it because they've been here forever. They are our family too, and they always told David and I that they were schooling us from the time we were small, and that we were from many worlds and many places. So I know what you mean by work, because when they take me, or when they took both of us, we were always busy, and we were doing things, and we were traveling to other places, and we were seeing other beings. And it's real funny about this planet Veron, because that I remember we went to this one certain planet, and I feel now that's where it had to be, because it had all the foliage and like huge leaves and all sorts of things like that on huge plants and so on. And when you said that, I thought, oh my gosh, But
maybe we're on the same planet.
And I thought that sounds like this Veron sounds like this place they used to take us so much. And I remember how loving. When you look in those eyes, I don't think a person could ever feel so much love from these beings that work with us and you know, they're also full of love and compassion. And they said that they sent us here for an experiment, and that way they were learning more about human nurturing, more about love for children, each other, and they were learning more about compassion, and that's why that we were sent here. And they called us their universal soldiers. But I'm probably like you are. I wouldn't know life any other way, like the travel, the learning things, the codes, the universal languages. This is our world, and we're here just for however length of time that we have. So we're also, of course, learning every day here. And we came here to also learn Earth life, and it's been very hard because when we come from, like you and me and many others, we come from this supreme love and light. And when we come into planet Earth, it was very dark to us, very dark. And they said we have, supplied you and your son with all the gifts because you're going to need them like a suit of armor to get through your life on this planet. So we do a lot with them and see a lot, and they teach us a lot, and they always have. One thing they do quite often, more than ever now, is they have to regenerate me a lot and re-energize me because this kind of travel, they said, for years and years takes a toll on the human body. So I was just down sick again for quite a while, which I'll call the flu, but actually my energy was just shot because I just go, in and out of these realms, and I wouldn't know what.
That makes sense.
Like,
that makes. Let me just interject something here because I was in town and I was going to have Ray Hernandez on my show. And what's that? I think it was yesterday. Yeah, this is Friday. I think it was Wednesday. Anyway, so I'm coming home from shopping, and I said to my husband, "Are you going to meet me?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to meet you. I'll be on the show." And we rushed to get home, and as soon as we got up here, it was like, oh man, I can't hold my head up. It felt like I got hit with a full-blown flu, and thank God it didn't hit me while I was driving. I managed to get home, and then I'm coming up to the house, and then a few minutes later he came home, and we just fell into bed, and I just fell into this deep sleep, like I was getting recharged, and so it was he, and I managed to get up, and I had asked my co-host to go on, and I said, I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't lift my head, so I texted it to her, and I texted to Ray, and I said, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. It's like I can't move. And then it felt like I was being like emergency recharge, like I was a phone that went empty. And then I woke up like a few hours later, and it was like, wow. Thank you. Whatever you did, thank you. So you had the flu. You call it the flu. We don't know what it is. We call it the flu. Oh, the flu.
Right.
So explain that again. You were just your batteries were drained or something.
It's just just the same like you said. I mean, they realize how hard this is on our bodies, and they have to take care of us, and they will because of the work we're all doing, so they take good care of us. But they've warned me, the last 5 years especially, that I must slow down because I've lived my whole life in these different worlds, spiritual, paranormal, the universal world, and earth world. And so it's hard for me to say no. I always want to help everybody. And then they say you cannot heal the world, and they have a humor also, but they mean it. And this time they said, you must listen. And but my son, the reason he lived 14 years longer, we knew why, because they would take and energize and work on him. They would take samples of his hair, of his blood, sometimes just a tiny little, just tiny thing of skin. And they knew how to keep him going, and they did. And they kept him as long as they needed to until it was his time to return home. But one thing that I don't know if I'll ever quite understand is why it's so hard for a human being to believe that the Creator created many other beings than just us on Earth, this tiny little planet. And when the Creator created all of us, you know, it was all done at the same time. And I call my ETs the Christ-like beings because that's what they are. And we have had, I just don't understand why it's such a big thing, you know, but maybe it's just because that's what we're a part of, you know. But I think, gee, Earth is such a second to the smallest planet they know of. And why couldn't there be other beings that were created? It's kind of being like, well, I don't believe there's people in France, you know, or something like that. And,
I get that totally. But when you and it really shocks me when I encounter that, because I'm walking my own little world here with all these other experiencers, and we're going, and people that are open, they're literally, their minds are open outside of this box, and they see, you know, it's logical. It's like, of course, this whole giant universe with millions of galaxies isn't just for human beings to look at. We can't even see half of them with the naked eye. So, and we've been talking about that on the show because it's Christmas, right? And what is Christ? What is Christ consciousness? And so what are your thoughts on that? I think that I'll just say real quickly that there were ambassadors that came down, and they could have been more than one, but they're the Christed beings. Yeah, so go ahead. You said something on that line.
Right, and it doesn't try to take away anybody's thoughts, religion, or anything. Everything, we're all a part of each other. Everything is one. And these heavenly beings that have worked with us also, Archangel Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, those were the three who's always worked with us. And I think, it all works together. And it's real hard for me at times to understand why people don't want to believe there's other beings from other worlds and galaxies, like you said. And the thousands and thousands of these species, I mean, they're very positive and compassionate and loving. And, of course, there are the ones who are negative. But that's just like people on Earth or anywhere else. Some are negative and many are positive, you know. So it kind of all blends together, actually, although we may use different terms.
I think Sasha wants to come on the show, but he's calling the wrong number.
Okay.
Okay, let me text him real quick, see if he'll get that. I know if I go to accept it, it'll block me being on the show here. So I'll see if I can get him in on the Blog Talk. I'll call him. Let's get Sasha. Okay. We're trying an experiment here. He had to go into town. Yeah, let's get Sasha here. He likes to talk to Ruth Ann. Okay, so I'm calling him. See if he will pick up.
Okay.
Ringy diggy 1, ringy diggy 2, ringy diggy 3. Come on, Sasha, pick up. Anyways, one more ring. He either will hear or he won't. Looks like he's not going to pick up.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Okay.
80.
No. Stop. Okay, here we go. Back to our discussion. Oh, well, he kept calling me on the wrong line. That's what happens. Okay. So I'll give him the number. I'll tell him to call the show. Here we go. One more try. Where is that? Nope, I don't want to hang up you. Please don't hang up. Okay, keep talking, and I'm going to text him the phone number. So we're talking about the Christic consciousness, the cosmos, and all the beings out there. And it's really hard to explain that to people. I have a brother who was very open-minded when I was a child. And he taught me about Zecharia Sitchin and the Anunnaki and ancient aliens and all that stuff. And now it's 20, 30 years later, and it's almost like it's a whole new person. I'm starting from point one, and I'm explaining to him, we have all these whistleblowers and experiencers. And he goes, but what's your proof? And I go, well, everybody's, coming forth. They're on their deathbed. There's millions of experiences. But it goes back to what's your proof? But it's like we don't walk around through life and, picking up little proof things from the ETs. They're giving us strange metals that are from the earth. Or they're not giving us proof. They're not letting us take selfies with them and go back, So there's no way to prove it in the regular concrete way, which would be proof. But if we came back with a selfie with the grays in it, they'd say, "Oh, you CGI'd it," So I don't know what to do with that. So I'm just talking to my brother. I love my brother, but it seems like somewhere he got lost along the way, and he's stuck in this. But testimonials stand up in a court of law. You can convict people and send them to jail for life or execute them based on testimonials, and the courts will say that's proof. But these people that are in this little matrix, they want proof in some other fashion, and it doesn't matter what you say, that's not proof. So I'm in Maui, and my brother's in Pennsylvania. What do you deal with in your world with people? I just run away from them and don't talk to them.
I think I know who I can say something to about it, and I know who I don't say something because they're not ready. But there was something that our family of ETs wanted done so bad, and I put it in the books, was they arranged for years to come over the house, and they had us film them. So I have tubs of film, and I can show exactly where it is where they are. They made sure that I videoed the streets, the homes, go right back up. Sometimes there'd be a mothership and several little ships. Sometimes there'd be one ship. We never knew. Also, they let things come out on film. So I have things. I do have visual proof of things. I'm going to get a program together somewhere in this area for spring, and hopefully to try to explain some of these things we're talking about tonight, and the other worlds, the other galaxies, the other beings. And I believe those who are meant to be there will be there. It's like a book. I think people always read certain books that are supposed to read the book, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
that it will mean something to them. But when I was a speaker down in New Mexico in July, I did talking on the spiritual and paranormal world, and I had a lot of pictures because they also had me take a lot of spirit pictures, so I had quite a lot of those on big boards, and on the screen, the PowerPoint presentation, I could show them there even larger where they could really see the details and so on quite well. But for some reason, they wanted all this done, and all those years, I never knew why they were having me record things and document things, the dates, the time, take the pictures. And here's what's funny. I started out years ago with a pocket camera, $10. It should take about 5 feet away. That's all I had.
Right.
And do you know, everything I took came out just perfect. It didn't matter if it was
Wow.
5 feet, 10 feet. But they orchestrated that because they orchestrate so much in our lives anyway. But I just, I don't know any other way to of life except the life I've had. And to me, my life is normal to me, but it wouldn't be to probably
to
most
me,
people.
Too.
But you know, yeah, like yours is, Janet, and you know exactly because you get all this stuff, and we see and hear into these worlds and realms. And gee, sometimes I go to funerals, and of course the deceased who has crossed over is standing right there with their loved ones and telling me, well, tell them this and this, and I can't do that. I mean, the people may not even be open-minded, yet they're in shock of their loved one, and you know, we get all this information. Yeah,
I had a friend once. I was at his wife's funeral, and she left behind a little 5-year-old daughter, and the daughter was devastated. And anyway, when I went home, she was bugging me. She came home with me, and she wouldn't let me sleep. And she had died of cancer, and she was saying, I shouldn't have died. I should have fought harder. I left my little girl. And so and I don't know how I did this, but I grabbed her by the hand. I said, let's go into the future. We'll see how she turns out. So I took, I forget her name. I think it was Stephanie. I took Stephanie with me into the future, and we saw her daughter, and we saw, like, what happened. She did have to go through a rough time when she was in her mid to late teens. But finally in her 20s, she stabilized, and she was perfect. You know, she was happy, and she got education. She had been well taken care of, and but she did have anger that her mother died so young. So, you know, she was right. So, and then she finally let me go because I said, I can't do anything more for you, because you can't do anything for the dead. They're dead. Yeah. Have you had that where they want you to do therapy with them?
No, I haven't had that, but usually I explain to them if they're confused or some don't even know they've passed and so on, and I work with them, and David and I crossed them over so many times. We didn't have to know them. Many of them we did not even know who they were, but we could help them get over and get into where they needed to be. Our spirit's always, it's never going to die, of course, you know, but that doesn't help much when you're, you know, I know even with me seeing David all the time and still do, when he had to leave, we had worked together in this all through his life, you know, since I came here before him to be his mother. But it was all arranged. It was all orchestrated that way, that I would have these children, and everything was orchestrated. And our time we would go home. And it was excruciating to know that he would go home so young. And when he left, I was absolutely lost in my worlds because we shared everything and we got the same things when we read for people, whatever, or if information that came to us, you know, that we got, well, we got the same things. But one thing real funny that the spirits used to do, and my mom and dad was a big part of this after they passed over, on my computer, I'd gotten a computer, didn't know a thing about them, but it would be on of a morning, and sometimes I would hear music on it if it was St. Patrick's Day, and we'd run down. I'd call to David, come down from your bedroom, and there would be like Irish playing cards and greeting cards floating across what you call a screensaver, and Irish music going. Well, my grandfather was Irish. One thing that Now, I filmed, I have everything on film, and one morning he heard something, came down, and he came to my door, and, Mom, you got to come and see this, and you know what it was? It was Star Wars music. And it had all these little ships out in space, and it had an astronaut with this pack on his back, and the tubes, and he's floating through space. And it was the cutest thing I ever seen. The music was just playing away. But it's amazing. It's amazing what they can do if they're wanting to do that or working that way. But my mom and dad came all the time, and they would not only could we see them and hear them, but they would write in my notebook. I kept 2 notebooks by my bed all the time, because at night when the ETs came, I would be writing down what they're saying and so on. And I have all these in their actual writing. And then when I found out I had a baby sister and twin brothers that I never knew had died before birth, and I found that out. Listening, I didn't know that. And I was listening to James Van Praagh. I went to one of his programs, and they told me to go there, that I was going to find out important information. Now, they could have told me, but there's a reason they have you do certain things. He started naming my mother, my dad, their dog Iggy. He named that there was a baby sister. Now, he didn't know who this went to. He does audience readings, so you're sitting out there. But my son and I knew all this was our family. And he said there was a baby girl, her name was Lecta, and she was named after her grandmother, my grandmother, whose name was Electa. So that's not a common name. And then there was a set of little twin boys, and one was named Little William, and one was named Little Artie. Well, my grandparents was Arthur and William. So I was so excited. All this information was coming through, and I was writing as fast as I could go. When I got home, this was in Iowa. We had traveled through the day to get there to the show and back that evening. But when I got home, I called my dad's sister because she was living and very bright, and she knew all the family history. I asked her, did I ever have a baby sister and twin brothers? And she said, well, yes. She said, why are you asking me that? She said, didn't your mother and dad? She said, why didn't your mother and dad tell you? And I said, no. She said, they never told you? And I said, were we born yet? I didn't know the order of the births. And she said, I don't remember the order of birth, and but the names were exact, Lecta and Little William and Little Artie. So the little spirit girl, the little spirit girl that lived here in the house, Katie, who's in my books, she passed here at 5.5, almost 6 years old. I asked her to take me to the old cemetery. I knew they had to be buried there because the rest of the family was out there. And I got in the car, and I see spirits that ride with me a lot, and she took me to the cemetery. I parked on a back road, and I walked up a little hill, and I didn't need her anymore. I knew where to go, and there were my baby brothers and my little sister and a lot of the older family. And the amazing thing was, just a few feet from my family was Katie's family, and her little stone was there.
Oh, wow.
So,
isn't that interesting? So, Katie, is she maybe on a soul level related to your family? That seems beyond coincidence that her family could be buried near your family.
Well, it was ironic because I wrote all this in the books. It was sometime later, I have a lot of visions, and I went into this vision, and Katie and I was in the front yard. It was winter time, and the snow was falling, and we were playing Ring Around the Rosie, holding hands, and we had on long white dresses. And I remember I looked up at the front of the house, and this house is very, very old. And in the window it had a kerosene lamp, and the light was just floating onto the snow, and the snow just sparkled. And it hit me then what she was telling me. that I had been her mother at one other time.
Oh.
So, and
Wow.
I felt that one of my daughters today, Katie has followed, or I'll say, what I mean, has one of my daughters is part of Katie. So everything just says it should, but I'll never forget that vision. It was as clear as a bell, and I knew exactly what it meant then and what she was showing me. So I have seen my daughters today, that I have today in other lives with me, and my son too, of course. But it's amazing how they can orchestrate things.
And what's interesting is my cousin's name is Lois Electa.
Oh,
my mother's my mother's sister's daughter is Lois Electa. And I never heard of the name before. I've never met anybody with that name afterwards. Isn't that hilarious?
You know what? I say we have a very deep connection because other than my grandmother, I have never heard that name till tonight. Electa.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is too weird. Yeah. So Lois Electa. Now my uncle, who was very religious, said that they had 12 children, and we said, Uncle Steve, and where did you get all these names? And he says, well, I found all of them in the Bible, because some of them we hadn't heard before, like Electa. But so there were 12 children, they had a first and a middle name. So all of them had first and middle names that were all found in the Bible. And so maybe, there's something like that. Yeah, Electa. I don't know how you find that. Bible search. Yeah. Well, that is. Yeah.
I've got to find that. I've got to find that. It may be there.
All these people are dead now, so we'll have to ask them. Uncle
Steve. That's right.
He made it to like 99, so he was pretty old. He almost made 100. So, wow. So it's so interesting, this connection between life and death. What happens to a soul that doesn't make it? My brother was real pro anti-abortion, and he was saying all this stuff, and I said, well, I think they just go to another, they pick another one, if they get aborted or if they get miscarried. Because I remember coming in, my mother was not real happy about being pregnant. She felt it was like a social obligation as a person of reproductive age after World War II in the 50s and 60s. She thought it was her duty to have all these war babies. And her sister was popping them out. She had 12. And my mother had 2, and she's like, oh, God, I'm pregnant again. So I left. I remember leaving, and then I came back the next time she got pregnant. And she was sick, really sick the whole time. She didn't really like being pregnant nor taking care of newborn babies, which she never expressed to anybody. It's like I just got this communication with her, now that she's dead. But then I came in and I said, it was rough. It was not nice being formed with such ambivalence, and my mother never ate properly, and she was just she was depressed. She, instead of postpartum depression, she was just depressed. And but I said, I have to be here because of what's going to happen now. This is why I'm born. I'm here for this time. So what information have you gleaned from this interaction with David and people that are on the other side about this life, death, birth cycle?
Well,
the
heavenly beings always explain to us a lot about whether it's abortions or if they die right before birth, right after birth. Everything, again, has been orchestrated. Everything's been planned, but they can have their free will to change their minds. And some of these souls they decide maybe last moment that this might not be the ideal time that they want to be born, and they can retreat back, and they called it a turnaround. And so they have their free will to do this, but they also then can return back at a different time, when they so choose to again. I know one thing, like myself and my son and probably everyone, we sat down with the council before we ever come into this earth, before we're ever born. And we make a lot of decisions on what we're going to do while we're here, and maybe just different things, and how many children we're going to have. But we're all agreeing on these things together with the council. So this is like the council in the Bible. And sometimes they tell us, I know they told me and then later my son, that we were taking on a little too much, but they do it very kindly and with compassion. And they're certainly not going to tell us how much to take because, again, that's our free will. So we came here to teach different things and to help people. I love the part helping people. And
I do
so that's
too.
And that's how that's all set up. So when a baby doesn't make it or dies after birth, or if they die at 1 or 2, whatever age, they have decided this. Just like my son did when he told us at 5 that he wouldn't live long, that he would die young, and he knew his journey. Although I would say probably a lot of people will never remember their journey, but he knew for some reason that he was allowed all of this and to know what he was going to do and that we would work together. But, yeah, they come back. They can return back when they want or come in another baby. They may come to someone else in the same family. There's 1,000 ways these things can happen, but it's a decision.
Yeah. And then for some reason I was remembering, I'm going to be turning 64 on February 6th. So, that song by the Beatles, When I'm 64, Will You Still Need Me? Will You Still Feed Me when I'm 64? And then when I got into that memory, I was teleported back to when I heard that song as a child. I was going to look up what year was that. And I remember right where I was when I first heard that song and what I thought about it. And as I was listening to When I'm 64, back in whatever year that was out, right, 65, 66, something like that, by the Beatles, and when I was listening to that, I was teleported to this time, like when I was 64. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I was doing when the song came on is we were children. We were swinging a pendulum over our left. You put your palm up, and right there on your palm, you would swing the pendulum, and you'd ask how many children you're going to have, and if they're male or female. And I didn't give birth to any of them, but I kept going. It's like we were counting 13, 14, 15 children. I go, what is this? I don't want to have all those kids. Why does this thing keep going? Because of everybody else. But now that I'm contacting experiencer and knowing what I know, that I'm part of the Anunnaki hybrid program. There's a gray hybrid program, but I'm part of the Anunnaki hybrid program. Mm-hmm. But it makes sense now. Do you have any hybrid children besides the children you gave birth to? Are you aware of anything like that?
There was one in the very beginning of a pregnancy that miscarriage. So that was the one I'm speaking of. That turned around,
and
did the turnaround.
Did the turnaround. Oh, okay, cool. But are you part of the ET breeding program? Have they taken your? Yes. Okay, yes. And you only have one with that program, or have they shown you more?
No, there's more. Sure, there is, and sometimes how we meet them. as they are a little older and so on like that. Now, we went to see the babies all the time, and I remember they were always in the same size containers, and it looked like water, but it was some kind of fluid, that they have them in. You know what I mean? And
yes.
their heads underwater and everything. And I would always panic, and I was so scared they were going to drown, and David would have to say, "No, Mom, they're okay, And that was years and years ago when I had to start remembering, this is how it is, But I've been around a lot of the hybrids and watched them as they grew and things like that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I am working with Gloria Hawker, have you ever had a conversation with Gloria Hawker? We should have you on together. You guys sound like, she's wonderful.
No, I don't think
Well, we're working on making at least a conference sometime. I have to talk to her. I was waiting for the holidays to get through the holidays, but we're going to be looking at venues. We're looking at probably Albuquerque, New Mexico. Where did you present the last time you presented?
I was in Dulce, New Mexico.
Dulce. That's right. We talked about that.
That was the Apache and Navajo Nation. So that's where I spoke for them.
Okay. So I was looking at the schedule with all of these different events. It's amazing. I mean, there is disclosure. You should see how many events are going to happen this year with people speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm about to contact the hotels and everything as soon as the new year, which is in a couple of days. So I definitely, we want you there. Bring your PowerPoint, bring your pictures. It sounds like we're going to have maybe two presentations, one about your ghost and one about your ET contacts or something. I don't know. How long was your presentation, or did you cut it down and cut it back?
Let's see. I was thinking I think we each had 1 hour. I believe we had. But I don't know. Now, the conferences you're talking about is where?
I haven't set it up yet. I'm looking for dates.
I see.
I kept looking
on.
I go online. I research the other ones because I don't want to have them right opposite each other. I know the Dulce one was opposite the Roswell stuff, and it's like people don't know where to go, and you end up, it's too confusing. So I'm trying to find a date where it could be before or after somebody else's, but not the same weekend, because I think we all need to support each other, and I don't want to be in competition. I mean, somebody's having something in New York or Maine, and then I'm doing it the same weekend. That's okay. But even that, I want to try to not have them the same weekend, because I go to conferences all the time, and people fly in from all over the world. I'll be going to the UFO conference, which starts my year in February. That's in February. And the people at the UFO Congress, I have a friend that comes up from South Africa every year, and people from England and Australia. So, people fly in from everywhere to be a part of it.
Yeah, I've been there the last 3 years, and you're right. And I certainly agree with you about, trying to get together and have this, because more and more people are coming forward at long last. It's so wonderful, and they're not afraid to speak up of their experiences. Love it. I just love it.
Not afraid. Are you going to be at UFO Congress this year?
I had intended to, and I can't give you a yes or no for sure. I've got to decide something really quick. I kind of got backlogged on some things. That's the only reason I have to make a decision right away. But, they come from Europe. They come from everywhere, and it's wonderful.
Amazing.
And you meet all these
we're going to have a
archaeologists
table there. We're going to have a table to come up and say hi to us. We always get a table, and we're going to be planning. I'll be planning this week, hopefully finding a venue and finding some dates. And I've got someone that's going to be putting down the down payment and the contract, and then we're going to figure out. I see it like a symposium, maybe some workshops in the middle of the gathering conference, and pulling together the energy of all these incredible experiencers. You go to these large conferences, they don't really allow a lot of time for experiencers to share their stories. And I think those are the most fascinating, the stories of experiencers. And I know they had one in Maine every year, and that one they didn't get the funding. So I'm gonna do what I can to pick up the ball and carry it.
Okay.
And so I definitely would love to connect with you and figure out how to have you at this conference, because the more we can get together and connect the dots and share our stories, we'll have the presentations and panels. Did they have any panels at the Dulce event?
Well, at the Dulce, no, they didn't have the panels. They had 6 of us speakers, and Travis Walton was one. I usually see him at most everything I go to. Really, really nice person. Has a lot of good information on his abduction years ago, and the movie they made off of it. But I'll tell you what, now that I know you guys are going to be out there for sure, I'm going to get busy and see what tables are available, and I would just love to see you and Sasha and get to help sponsor this experiencer thing, because it's just great. It's just wonderful.
Oh, yeah. It's so we were looking at Albuquerque because, Gloria lives there, and she's got about 200 to 300 in her. She has a group, an experiencer group. So she said it grew like wildfire. She said most times we get a venue to hold the meeting, and we have to turn people away. And I said, well, it sounds like Albuquerque's a good place to start, because pay bills, you need enough people to sign up and say yes, they're going to come to it. So I will definitely keep you in the loop, and Ruth Ann and all the listeners in the loop, and I'll be getting that out, and we'll get a website up. I have a designer. I'll give her the information. We'll stick it up and start promoting it as soon as possible, because it's time. That's what I got.
Yes, it is. You do have to do it so far ahead, because I wanted to be at Roswell too, but Roswell and Dulce was the very same weekend. So,
yeah, you can't be 2 places at once.
Yeah, if it had just been a week apart, I would have been at both of them, but so it's good to do it way ahead. So you will have your table out at the UFO Congress Conference then in Phoenix.
Oh, we bought our table. We're sharing one with Misha Johnston. And we did that, about 5 months ago. We knew for sure we were going to go to that one. And I'm actually going to go through Vegas. The day before is, what's his name? Hall, the guy that does the tall whites. Charles Hall. Charles Hall is doing a day presentation on Sunday in Vegas. And the way my tickets were working out, it's cheaper to go through Vegas. So I said, well, let's go a day early, go see Charles Hall, and then I'm going to stay at Misha's house, and we're going to all come over together to the UFO Congress. I always get there early so I can judge the films. And Caroline Corey's going to be there with her new film, and she talks about the holographic nature of existence and how we're all one, and that quantum physics proves that we're all connected and we're all one. And it takes us from victimhood to empowers us that what we do does matter. And our thoughts do matter.
So.
Yeah. So.
Our thoughts are are things. So when we send out those thoughts, they are things. I'm like you. They're very important, very powerful. Our words.
Yeah. So when you think you can't do anything about it, all you have to do is change your thoughts. If you find yourself thinking, negative thoughts, guess what you're doing? You're creating that. So erases, switch channels, go into a different lane, create a new thought, and you can overwrite that with something kind, loving, conscious, and that goes into the grid, into the morphogenic field, and that changes everything for everybody. Everything constantly goes into the grid, into the field, into the morphogenic field, and then it comes back down into us individually, and that's how we can keep up-leveling and changing. So I'm excited. I know it's very confusing for everybody. I'm just excited. I think there's something really good going to happen in 2018.
Oh, I do too. I get that too. I was talking about that this morning, and I said, boy, there's going to be a lot of things and changes coming in 2018, and I said a lot of good things too. So I'm glad you said that, because that's what I keep getting so strong also. It'll be very, and I'm excited about conferences. I'm that way every year. I usually go to Phoenix, and then I get home, and 10 days later I'm in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Dolores Cannons,
now tell me about that, because I've been wanting to go to that, and go ahead.
I enjoy it. It's a much smaller one, but I really enjoy it. And you will love Eureka Springs if you've never been there. It's the most quaint little town. It looks like a storybook, something out of a storybook. I love it there. Boy, it's beautiful. But people come from all over there also. You could probably look up and see who the speakers are this year and all about it. So I'm usually always at that conference also. So I traveled a lot this year, so I kind of was glad to be home a while and just do my work here, because I'm not the greatest traveler in the world. Living out of a suitcase.
I hear you.
But I will certainly look forward to hearing back from you when you get things lined out, and I'm hoping now, to catch you in Phoenix. That would be great.
Good. We have to go have lunch or something together. And so let me know if you're coming for sure. And let's see, we're still broadcasting, although we're having a fun chat. So we're having a fun fireside chat. I'm going to look into it. The problem is it's in April, right? The Eureka Springs, Dolores Cannon thing. And that's really coming up fast.
Well, yeah, it hit on Easter this year, but you know what? People still came, because I know some people were wondering, and some of the vendors, if that would, be less people to come in. But you know what? They came in. I know the year before, Eric Van Daniken from Egypt, he was there. That was really, really good. He wrote Chariots of Fire and all those books. And I love his work because I love Egypt. In fact, I just went to see King Tut, the exhibit in St. Louis yesterday. It was really
wow.
good.
No, it was there. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Mm-hmm. Well, here it is, the 30th annual Ozark. Oh, that was last year's. Where's here's the 2018. Hold on. I'll do a little commercial for you people at the 31st Ozark Mountain Conference. And they have confirmed Stanton Friedman, Linda Moulton Howe, Chase Klosky, Forrest Crawford. There's a lot of TBAs. You know what? You need to get your act in there, Ruth Ann. See if you can get on as a speaker. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to be announced. So I think I'll send them a letter too.
I see Linda Moulton Howe at nearly most I go to, and we kind of talk quite a bit, and I really love her work. I admire the things, just unbelievable work that she's gotten done, and sometimes Barbara Lamb will be there, the crop circles. She studied for over 50
I know
years and
Barbara.
things like that. Oh, just wonderful people. And, it doesn't matter of age. We keep working as long as we can ever work because this is so important to us, and it needs to be gotten out to the public. But I just love all this. I get so excited about all of it because it's kind of like also being back home where we came from. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I understand. It doesn't really matter. The speakers are important, of course, but the people who gathered these things, it's like a family reunion, and the conversations that you have, like in the vendor room or out the hallway or over lunch or breakfast or something, those things are just as powerful as, coming to the events and talking to the speakers. So I would go to them all if I could afford it. I should put a GoFundMe. GoFundMe so I can go to the conferences.
I would too, because this is our lives. This is what we know. So that's why I know we get so excited and feel that way because we kind of lead until we start talking about these things, and like when the timing's right, and like my ET family said, now's the time, begin the book. Now you are to start talking about this and telling our real truth. We want our truth told through your books, so your words will speak for us. And it was exciting because all these messages that I have from them, I've put a bunch in this one book, but I've got to write a couple more books to ever get, more messages in.
I pulled my chapters. I have like an outline, and I said, okay, I got to get this written. So I pulled it into a template last night. I said, okay, I'm getting serious. I'm going to write this book, and because it took me like 3 months from the outline to full production the last time I did a book. But I had to shut off the phone and say, from 6 to 8 every night, that's my writing time. I don't care who it is. I can't do any of it right. But when I say yes and I agree to it, it comes through me. It just flies. I was a secretary for 30 years, right? So I could type flow of consciousness. I can type 80, 90 words a minute, and it's like, what are you writing? I don't know. I'm going to keep going. I'll see what it says when I stop.
You know what? I love that when they're right there with you also, and you're writing, and you type all these things, and then you go back and look at it, and you're like, wow, Where does that come from? Yeah. That's our world.
It's not really channeling. I think what it is you're just connected to your higher self, to the supercomputer of the cosmos. It's not like I'm gone and there's somebody taking over me. That's kind of makes it scary. But no, nobody's possessing me. It's just I'm just doing this. I'm accessing my whole self. I think that we're in these little avatars, our little human form. But when I get into the writing mode, everything comes through me, and I'm a giant cosmic being. I think if somebody took a picture of my R at that point, it would be out through the roof, and then and I'd stop and I go, okay, that was fun. I can't wait to see your next book. If I can inspire you to get it written. But I'm excited about your PowerPoint. It's like I really want to have that because of what you said. You said you have all these pictures. I had a UFO. It was conscious. It was talking to me. I said, what beings are in you? He said, no, I'm the craft. So it was, I guess, AI, but it was very, very high conscious. It felt loving and kind, just able to do the whole thing. And it came, and it landed right on it didn't land. It hovered like about 5-6 feet off of my deck outside my. I have like a ski chalet type building, and there's a big deck outside my front window, and it hovered exactly in the middle. Like, I didn't have to move my eyes right or left. I didn't have to move my head up or down. I mean, it was like it came and just posed for me, right center in my frame of vision. And then it sat there for 15 minutes. And I just was talking to it with my mind, and it was talking back. And I said, "Can I take your picture?" And it said, "No." I was like, "Oh, come on. No, you're right here." Come on, it's right on my phone. Just let me do. No, if you go for your phone, we're going to blink out. I said, "Oh, you brat." And said, "Well, just appreciate looking at us, looking at me." So I got to stare at this thing for like 15 minutes, and it was the most amazing thing. So it twisted through in and out of this space. It was like a twisting motion. It twisted in. Then it went 3D, then it twisted out. It's like it was like a ball crinkled up and twisting, and then because I looked like, what the heck's that, you know? And it unfolded into a ship, sat there for 15, maybe 20 minutes, and then it did the same twisting into. So I was very appreciative that it showed me. What's the closest you've been able to get to a craft? I mean, I know you've been on craft, but like when they say, "Come look at me."
Well, gee, let's see. They've been around the house here so much. Sometimes they would be in the back. I have some large part in the back of my house. And before some of the newer homes were built on behind me, they would come back there. So I guess, gosh, I wouldn't know how to determine in feet, but, you know, like right over the house. The thing of it was, not only seeing them, they would always let us know if they were coming in. And we would find or get the information through telepathy, you know, that telepathically, that they would say, "You will see us tonight," or "Go into the yard, take pictures, 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. And we were always getting those kind of messages too. But I guess I would say over the house, but I can remember I've been in so many, and it happened so many times, I can describe them, I think, really good, and tell what we did on them, and I would keep track of all that. But I know one time my son, he said, "I'm going to sleep on the sofa in the family room tonight because they told us they were coming tonight." And he said, "I want to be awake if I can when they come." But he came and called up the stairs to my room. "Mom, come quick." He said, "They're here." He said, "I just saw 3. So by the time I came down and everything, we didn't see them anymore. So I don't know if they waited until later when he was sleeping, and then when I went to bed and was sleeping, because towards morning I know I was out and about with him. And he's off.
Right.
David is where I am, so we're out there.
What kind of vehicles came and picked you up? Like the one I saw, I call it the sport model. And when I was on Johnson Atoll, there was a bigger one. It was a bigger craft, but it came out. It was it could go in under the water. I guess they all can. What's the difference between atmosphere and the water, right? They can travel in any kind of environment. But this one came out of the ocean and picked me up with my boyfriend at the time, and then we went back under the ocean. That was kind of like your traditional, round craft, like
right.
Yeah, so that was that one. The other one looked almost like a car. It was like a sport model. It was very interesting, and I've seen that one before. When I was in Honolulu, they took me out of the 16th floor window of a high-rise, and just like what was her name that in New York? I forget her name. Anyway, the lady they took out of the high-rise in New York City, and everybody was on the Brooklyn Bridge, and they saw it from below, like some politicians. Anyway, so that happened in, the late 90s, and then it had to be before that. When was that? No, I don't know. Last time. Anyway, I moved to Hawaii, and that same type of thing happened to me. And they took me right out the window. But it was into what I call the sport model. It was almost looked like a giant, like a limo is packed up. It's smaller than a limo, but it's larger than I don't know. It's like maybe an old-fashioned 60s Cadillac size, the big, long vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, maybe it's slightly bigger than that, yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, I've
but not
never
like that at all. But kind of like a Jetsons future car, It's like
oh,
I don't know how to
that's cute.
explain it. I have to draw this. I'm not good at drawing though, but I should draw it. So back to you. What kind of vehicles have you been in?
Well, we've been in several motherships, the huge ones with different floors, and
yes.
Usually the most common one was the round one. I don't recall ever being in one of the real small ones. I know a lot of times we were picking up other people, and I remember in this town I live in, there was a woman that I knew that we were going to pick up. So they had me stand when the door slid up, they had me stand there so when she saw me, she wouldn't be maybe as frightened. That's why they had me there, to kind of help her get off so she wouldn't be so scared. But I could tell when I looked in her eyes, I could see the fear in her eyes, and I knew she was so afraid. And all of a sudden, she turned around and she ran back towards where her home was. And the main ET, he was standing beside me, and another one was standing beside him. And the one standing by the main one said something about her leaving, and the main one said, "Let her go." In other words, they never forced anyone. It had to be with their permission, whether they remembered it or not. They had at some point, whether it was in a dream state, but they never, ever took people without permission. All of these ETs that have ever worked with us and all the different kinds and the councils, whoever, it's always with permission. So sometimes we would go along in that respect where they would see us first. So, to maybe it would be easier for them to come on to the ship, in that kind of a dream state they're in. But, they never took anyone. Even when they would bring a different species, they would tell us ahead of time, they must have your permission first or they will not come. So all of them that we ever dealt with was positive, amazing, and great teachers, and the things they would show us and teach us, and they had these screens inside of the ships, and they would set us down, and the things would go by so fast on the screen it was just a blur. And they would say, "Do not worry, this is all being implanted into your brainstem. You will have this information when you need it." So many times we're sitting in front of these screens. I got to see a lot of the things that they work with in order to travel and break down into energy molecules, and that's how we traveled with them a lot, was being broken down into just energy. And this is why they
so
would come.
There's that. There's that teleportation, like breaking. See, there's been a debate, because I'm here in the middle, I listen to all these stories, and they're saying, we don't have teleportation, and then people say, of course we do, and it's not like Star Trek, and so you are broken down into your energetic state and traveled that way.
Yes.
That's
many
interesting.
Times, many times, and they would. They were trying to always get us to remember what we had always known, being a part of them too. So they worked with us diligently, and it wasn't just once a week, once a month. I mean, they would be here sometimes broad daylight, a sunny day, but, they have a way to cloak themselves. And I asked that question early on. I said, how come other people do not see you? And they said, because we have a shield, and they cannot see us unless they wanted other people to see them. But it's been so fascinating. I don't know about you, but sometimes I just have to pinch myself and realize what's been happening my whole life. And
I know.
How, you feel like such a foreigner at times. In the respect that I had a real hard time adjusting most of my life. I haven't fully yet, but growing up, I just knew I wasn't a part of anything. I felt like I was just really had a time. I was very withdrawn and didn't have friends, and I was learning all this over again, how to be human. And it was tough.
I hear you. It was tough for me, and I was so kind of afraid of the world saying the wrong thing, and the judgment, criticism. So I had to be. I went the opposite. I was popular. I have lots of friends, but they never knew who I was. It was a facade.
Right.
It was only what was safe to say. So I could compartmentalize my life. I kept busy with all these friends, but I'd go home at night, and there I was. And most of my contact was in the night, but I had one where when I was 4, it was broad daylight. They took me to the mothership. I've been on the mothership. Probably I traveled energetically. Maybe I wasn't as interested in the technology, but maybe, I was. I don't know. I don't have every single memory. I just have snippets. I do regression with my husband sometimes, and he takes me back, and I'll say, I remember this part, and then as soon as I go right under, and it just comes. I just get all this information. It's not difficult. I don't even have to think. It's just like allowing the time and shutting off the phone and no television, and just like, okay, now we're going to look at this, and poof, here comes all these memories. I wanted to go back. So Gloria Hawker said the same things, that she knew this woman that they were picking up. So you're having the same experience. You knew that woman that was going to be picked up, right? You knew her?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. I knew her real well. And another time we were on the ship, I write about this. It was really an experience because they were going to take this, I'll call it negative thing, out of this woman's body. So there were 2 doctors there, and I recognized the one from around where I live.
Wow.
I was really shocked. I was just shocked. The other one I did not at all. And I describe how they do this procedure and how they did it and so on. And for some reason we were to see these things exist and why they were removing it and so on. And I often wondered every time I saw that doctor if he had any memory of even doing that, or if he also lived a secret life like we lived,
That's amazing. Wait, slow down. So you never talked to him about it? You never talked to your friend about it?
No.
Now, what were they taking out of her? Was it like some kind of parasite or creature or entity or spiritual possession? What was it?
It was such a horrible, I guess I could call it an entity, creature. And they explained what it was, which I wish I had that notebook right here. I'd tell you the exact words. And that, of course, it had to be taken out of this person. The person could not survive.
How did it get in her? How did it get into her?
Oh, I don't remember them even saying that. But something, a negative entity can probably enter
so she got possessed
when your defenses are down. Yes.
Yeah, because
and I saw that
because we've done exorcisms. Sasha and I've done exorcisms. People are possessed, and you tell them to go away. But this sounds more like a with a medical doctor having to remove it.
Mm-hmm. They had
so
two.
And
I felt like they must have been hybrids also, and belonged, because although on this earth we're all different things. We're mothers, we're business people, we're doctors, we're, what I mean.
Right,
but, yeah. And they said it was important that we saw this and how it was done. So I never really questioned. I don't think I really asked questions when we were with them, hardly ever. I just listened and I watched, and then I would document it later.
Well,
but that was interesting.
Where did they take it out of her from? Did they remove it from her eyeball, or did they take it out of her mouth, or did they cut her open?
No,
Where did they remove this from?
It was more up through the mouth. Yeah. And then one other time, I belong to ARE meeting, Edgar Casey's, because he's one of our main teachers, and area of research and enlightenment, always has been. And I remember every time I looked at this one woman, I could see this thing that had possessed her. And I didn't know really what to do about it or to do anything. So one night she lost control in the meeting. My son and I was doing Reiki on a man that had a brown recluse spider bite on him, and she was accusing us that we were going to harm him and we were going to kill him. She just come out with all this stuff. And I couldn't see her face anymore. I could only see this thing that was possessing her, this hideous thing. Well, I wasn't worried a bit because Edgar had warned us that this was going to happen. He said, remember, I'll be at your side. You have nothing to worry about. So this broke the meeting up, this woman's actions, and then no one had said a word. Everybody was shocked, and we're just sitting there also shocked at her. So all of a sudden she just shut up, and that hideous face was gone, and her normal face came into view that I could see. And I knew no one else but David and I could see that other thing in her face. After the meeting, she was just like her old self, and she followed me to my car, and she said, I apologize, for her actions and so on, and we left just fine and everything and started on the way home. But David and I discussed that most of the way home, that something needed to be done. She did not even realize that she had that in her, that possession in her. So sometimes, we see things we can't help everything. None of us. We'd lose our mind, trying to do. That's why. All the things. But I felt so sorry for her because it makes you wonder when you hear of exorcisms and things like that, how often these things must happen. I was a friend of Lorraine and Ed Warren, so years and years ago they used to use some of the pictures I sent to them. They had classes at a university, but here's why they did. They said, we do all the negative things and these evil things that we have to get rid of, but said, yours is of love, and that's why it's so different, and so they really were interested in the work because it was just the opposite side. But I guess you knew Ed, he passed away just a few years ago. And
I never got to have a conversation with either of them. I don't think so.
Well,
no,
wonderful,
I don't think I got a chance.
They're just wonderful, wonderful people. And as far as I know, she's still doing work of some kind. I don't know if she does classes anymore. I don't think she had been the last few years. I haven't talked to her for a little while, but they always went to the places that needed to get rid of the bad stuff, and they spent their whole life with such good people.
I might have seen them early on in my. Where were they located? It sounds familiar. I've been on this path for so many years. Connecticut. Yeah, there was somebody that came down through Pennsylvania. Yeah, they might have come through Pennsylvania and done some workshops, but that would have been a long time ago, like in the 90s. They sound familiar. See, I've had such a long life. So much has happened. I don't remember half of what I've done.
I know what you
on this spiritual path.
I know what you mean.
Right.
Oh boy,
it's a funny life. It's a funny life. So you were saying that you got to interact with Edgar Casey. Now he's dead because he died in the 40s. But you're interacting with his soul. I got to actually meet Hugh Lynn Casey. This was Pittsburgh in the 70s, I guess. It was sometime in the 70s. And that was a magical weekend. I was married to my first husband. I was very young. I got married at 16, so I was probably 18, probably under 20, maybe 19. And I went to see Hugh Lynn, and he was brilliant and had a lot of insight about my dysfunctional relationship. And I had to think about it. It'll be another probably 5 to 10 years to leave. I'm very stubborn. No, I'm going to make it work. But I love Edgar Casey. I remember finding him around the same time I found Ruth Montgomery, and they saved my life. I mean, what can you do when you're in an ultra-conservative place? And, they don't really believe in spirituality. They believe in religion. And you're there, and you're awake and conscious, and the rest of the world is asleep, and there's nobody to talk to. So thank God for Edgar Casey and all the books written about him. So that's did he come through in a seance? How did you speak to Edgar Casey? How did your group do this?
I found out, I'll tell you this first part, but I found out about middle ways in our relationship with him that we had been together in every single lifetime we've ever had. So the way that he introduced himself again was probably the end of the 80s, and he would put this big EC in the carpet, like if you write with your finger, and it would stay this big EC. And on that dresser, he would do it in front of this dresser. I had a holy box that belonged to my son, and we had bought it at a flea market, and David he said, I don't know how in the world that could be in a flea market. We just love stuff like that. And it was a healing box, and when you opened it, it had the candles, it had the prayer for the sick, and, they would travel on horseback and in buggies years ago to people that were dying or sick and say the prayer and light the candles. So it was a real precious thing to us, and he would put this EC. Then I started coming to my room or get home from the hospital with David, and I'd go up to change. The lid would be up, the candles would be set in the holders, and I began to find these notes, and they would be signed EC. I thought,
oh, wow.
Who is EC? See, it wasn't coming. Oh, yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff written by him, all kinds of things, and signed. So I went to the library one day, and I was looking in the Native American Indian section, and the book fell out on my foot, and what is it? It's Edgar Casey's There Is a River.
Oh.
So it dawned on me that my son wasn't saying a lot about it. He knew, but he was waiting for me to remember.
My goodness.
He always had a little book by his bedside, Think on These Things, Edgar Casey's little book. And one time I asked him, I said, this looks like a really nice book. And he said, oh, Mom, you'd love it. And that was all he said. So I got home. It all clicked in. This is the man Edgar Casey, and I read that book. I cried, and I cried as I read it because so many things I remembered. And I noticed that he talked some about his sister Annie, and he began to lead me to where I realized he made it very clear that in one lifetime I had been his sister Annie. So he's helped us through entire lives. He said, "I will be with you always," and he's still with me and always will be. But there was 11 names in his story in that first old book that touched on somebody in my family, and I remember writing those names down, and I thought, wow, what is it? When I'm reading it the first time before I found out why this connection was happening. So he has advised and worked with David and I all those years, and what he did that we love the most, he taught us the trance states that he himself did with Gertrude. So there was almost a year that went by, and he named the time. It would always be 10 a.m., and they would be on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. And that's when we did the trance states. And David would ask the questions like his wife Gertrude did to him when he was in trance. And I went right into trance, and then I would answer the questions just like he did. And if you remember, all that was done to heal people, with their different health problems. So I recorded all of those sessions, and at the same time, I have all the recordings and I have all the notebooks. So he told me before I wrote the first book, he said, "You're going to write 5 books at least," and he said, "One day they will be in my library at the ARE library, in Virginia Beach, Virginia."
Oh, my goodness,
and the year before last, I get a letter, and his nephew that ran it, his grandson, has been gone quite a while too, Charles Thomas. But the man that runs it now, I got a letter, and they put both of my first 2 books in the library. I didn't have the third one.
Oh, my goodness.
So everything he's ever told us, our teachers and guides from the other side has happened, are the ETs. It's always been just as they speak. Because like me, you don't doubt the wisdom and knowledge that they have, and these heavenly beings, So I was so thrilled. And I had told some of my family that this was going to happen someday. And I happened to find an old notebook a few weeks ago, and I had asked in it, "When will my son be healed?" That was all I just wanted to hear, when he would be healed. Although he was terminal, I believe everything's possible, anything.
Right.
And they wrote on that notebook March 16th, 2008. Now this was like 15 or more years before he passed, and guess what? I knew it could be a two-way sword. He would be healed here, or he would be healed when he crossed into the other side. And, he died on March 16th, 2008, just like they wrote on that paper.
Oh,
and I just cried.
Oh, my God.
I just cried because they were trying to let me know in a good, a good way that was many years before he passed. But I just found that, like I said, a few weeks ago, I have so many notebooks and tubs of them, and I happened to be reading in the one, and it just kind of threw me, because I thought, yes, they were telling me right there. And a mother, I'm hoping that it's going to be meaning here on earth,
But he passed. Is Edgar Casey David Wilcox? Did he come back?
A lot of people's asked me that. I didn't know who David Wilcox was. I wasn't very knowledgeable about things till just the last few years. But,
okay.
But, I think anything's possible. I think that I can't really just answer that because he works through me, works through David. I don't know. I mean, he may could probably be. I wouldn't never say he wasn't.
My understanding is that we send fractals down into our various incarnations. So Edgar could simultaneously be on the other side and have a fractal of his energy, of his soul personality in David Wilcock.
Exactly.
And
and
I met the author, Win Free. He said it was Win, last name Free, who wrote about that. And anyway, so I don't know either, but I just they showed the pictures of the two of them. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, and my feeling is he's absolutely. That's what's coming out of David Wilcock, is Edgar. Yeah. I mean, and it may be just like it. I mean, just like you said, they have different essence. They can come through different people, but the way I understand it is he's felt this, I guess, since he was small or something, you know. So, but I mean, why couldn't it be? I mean, I've never asked anything about that or anything, but I know that things happen and they do come through, and they work through people in their lifetimes also. So, hey, you know. And
well, I invite you to go on to the YouTube. I just saw Edgar's up in my consciousness, and the YouTube on Edgar Casey in 2018. It was kind of good. It has, you know, from my perspective, when I was shown 24 different multiverses, any future is possible. It's like a path you can take. And so he kind of has one that was predicted, and they made it into a wonderful YouTube, and it has some bad things, like parts of California going down, but the other side of it is like we enter the golden age of enlightenment. So anyway, when you have a chance, go put Edgar Casey 2018 predictions and take a look at that and see what you think. I will grab that and put that on our show page here because I think it's very interesting. So we're almost out of time. Is there any final words for our listeners? That went fast.
Well, I just think that if everybody could just treat each other with compassion and love and kindness, this would be the most magnificent planet. and I think it would just be so wonderful if they could just let old wrongs, if they think's been done to them, go and not waste their energy on all the negative stuff, and just send out love and good vibrations. Because I think if you treat somebody with love and respect, you're going to get it back. You know, I think that's what we need. We need in this world, and it would be a great world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've been in my own personal practice of life is if I find something really coming out, you know, wrong or thought coming out wrong, I catch myself and then I go, okay, I'm going to breathe that through my heart. And I'm going to say it again, either in my mind or to the person or even to the cat that's meowing over there. Say it again through your heart with love and it shifts everything. Even though that person may not be anywhere near you, it shifts everything. It's like the most amazing thing. It's like, oh, I am God. I can shift everything just by pulling it into love instead of hate, instead of anger, instead of any negative energy. Just because we're all parts of God. We're all emanations of Source. You know, how we symbol it, and we all have the crisis consciousness and that capability, and we can just do it. But we don't have to play victim. So anyway, that's what I've been practicing is shifting it. Okay, we're out of time. So your books are once again, and you have a website.
Yes, my books are Under the Rainbow Crossing, The Story of David, and Aliens Within Our Own Selves, and they're on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can get them in softcover or readers. So that's my books, and I hope that I get to see you and Sasha at the UFO conferences.
Oh, I hope so too. And anybody listening, come over to see us at UFO Congress, and we'll all have a chat, and we'll have a great time. And big hugs to you, and I'm going to hug you in person soon here. All right, we're out of time. Much love and blessings, and aloha.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Love to everybody.
Welcome to the Total Wireless Store, where total confidence awaits.
Music powers my morning runs, but data overages slow me down.
Don't worry, you got this with the Total Wireless Store. Just bring your number and get 10 gigs of lightning-fast 4G LTE data with unlimited talk and text for $40 a month.
I'd run to the Total Wireless Store right now for that deal, if I wasn't already here.
Data girl.
Discover the Total Wireless Stores and get total confidence. The latest phones, the best network, all at great prices. Excludes TracFone Wireless Inc. brand sports. $40 plan must remain active to keep bonus data after 12/31/18. Terms at stores.totalwireless.com.